Well, as the market turns green, there seems to be even more developments out of the Terra Luna Classic team. We've got a very interesting article from Alex, one of the original Terra Rebels developers, and an update from Tobias, in particular the marketing strategy and equally what they have been working on. And then we'll take a look at the price and everything else going on with Luna Classic. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, keep up to date with everything going on, and let's dive into it. So a sea of green right now in the global market. You can see if we refresh the page, $824.4 billion, 0.77% up in the last 24 hours. You can see Bitcoin looks like it's going to go and test that 17k range, up 0.7% in the last 24 hours. And actually, in the last hour, we are starting to see the crypto market move. You can see Ether 1.5%, looking like it's going to try and test 1300. And as we come down, you can see, like we talked about yesterday, Cardano at 2.86%, Matic nearly 1% up. And if you were in my live stream, you know that we bought a little bit more of that. Solana looks like it's okay with all the debate around bonk and what that is doing, but as you come down the market, generally speaking, we're seeing plenty of green across a number of different cryptocurrencies. Now, as we move down further the list, you'll see as we get into the high threes and more importantly into that 40th spot, you can see Terra Luna Classic up 8% on the week, 24 hour up 1.07. Now our volume is down $86.6 million, but I think this is down to wait and see. We need utility catalyst and ultimately that Agora post that gone through. Check that video out. I'll leave it in the description down below to go and have a look, particularly around moving the coding and the implementation facility to make sure that it can go directly through a decentralized protocol as opposed to having to go through the Terra Rebels. Now, what have we got? And I thought this was a very interesting article by Alex Substack. Now, interestingly, that he is Alex on Substack, my apologies. Now, interestingly, he was obviously in the Terra Rebels, and he sort of talks a little bit about utility and how we bring it. LUNC needs a product vision. Now, there's two main categories we need to talk about. One is how do we continue to remove supply of Terra Luna Classic, and then ultimately how do we then build to make people want to come and use one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest, ecosystems and blockchains out there. So he kind of sets the tone pretty well. Over the last 8 months, the Luna LUNC community accomplished a lot underneath a Spanish sitcom worth of drama. Huge new community formed out of thin air, restored staking to a broken chain, and trusted a flawed leadership set, passed some bad policy, mostly reversed the bad policy, and purged its two worst personality cults, the Terra Rebels and Vegas, at a very low dollar cost to the chain of 150k, but a high cost in lost time. And I think that's important with anything cryptocurrency. Time moves incredibly quick. Now, you can see there 4 months worth of finance staking rewards around USD 50 million and lost momentum. Today, although the community is significantly smaller than it used to be, it remains extremely active, engaged, and full of potential. Now, what he talks around in this is particularly around what the benefits are. What do we need to do? How do you make it happen? So you can see there 2 years from now, what use case does Luna Classic have? What will LUNC do that will make us use it? How do we bring people to our blockchain? Yes, NFT collections are great. Yes, games are great. But ultimately, why are people going to come and use Luna Classic over all of the others? Now, again, he continues to talk around the Layer 1 Joint Task Force and ultimately what they are trying to do. And we'll take a look at those updates from Zaradar. But we have, and this is the important part where we as a community need to talk about these. We need to get the information out. You guys need to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, get this video out, because there is a ton of advantages to coming to build on Luna Classic. And ultimately, that's what we see. We will only ever get true significant burns by having volume on the ecosystem. Now, what are our advantages? Well, we have a politically decentralization. So what does that mean? We ultimately are governed by the community through our set of validators. We've even had all nodes committing to only have a 10% vote by just changing some of their coding on there, but that's an important thing. The LUNC community was able to identify and liquidate a pack of wolves in sheep's clothing amongst its leadership, but the short term, it's most important the network, the decentralization, besides the vast majority of alt layer 1 coins, and ultimately controlled by one corporation, regardless of how elegantly decentralized their network is. They also have a hyper engaged core community, and the community for Luna Classic is stronger than ever, and we see that on a number of times. TFL's patronage under indefinite legal siege, retained large pre-cash reverses, so remember that $4.16 million that we got. Luna Classic is high engagement but no Dapps ecosystem, and that's where we need to use the Luna ecosystem to really support it. And ultimately a powerful DeFi brand. The Cosmos SDK is really coming coming out of it is a credible layer 1 blockchain, and I think as we move through the course of the next couple of months, we're going to see that really start to come to fruition. Now, with any advantage, there always has to be a disadvantage, and we wouldn't be doing due course to anyone if we didn't talk about that. But at the same time as being incredibly decentralized, that can come as a negative. I'm talking my live stream tonight, where actually sometimes you just want people to make a decision. We want to agree a journey, we agree a direction and go with it, as opposed to a 7-day voting period in which the outcome might not be what we want. Ultimately, we are still on a very old native branch of the LUNC tech or the Cosmos SDK ecosystem. We have a low amount of functioning decentralized applications, but it is changing, and I think that's the positive. And ultimately, we have a poor state of community education. Now, that's not to be an offensive, but ultimately, what does it mean? A lot of people bought in the hype of Lunar Classic. A lot of people bought in for a little amount, expecting to turn that to $1 million overnight. We talked long and hard on this channel, particularly about that, what it looks like. So there is advantages and there is disadvantage, but the advantages far outweigh, in my opinion, what we have as disadvantages for our network. The biggest advantage, and I think the one that everybody is talking about, is USTC. How do we bring USTC back to the forefront? And again, there's lots of debate and conversation around how that can really play out and ultimately what that could turn out to be. Now, it was branded as one of the best ecosystems and ultimately decentralized utilities that we had. Whether that's actually capable of doing that now, I am not sure, but there is definitely an ambition to do that, and there's obviously tons of proposals. Now, taking a look at what Zaradar has talked about, and remember, layer 1, it was meant to be a meet and greet last week. They have absolutely come out of the backs, but a great day with the team. Sadly, the last day of onboarding week. Next week we will move into the lab and leave the PR show for LUNC Burn Army and Demon Monkey. Now, if you didn't catch Demon Monkey's AMA with Classic Crypto, incredibly good. Lots of conversation, lots of interesting points to talk about. And ultimately, there is a few AMAs and interviews. But for me, this is a really positive step. We then have, exactly as Zaradar puts here, on a personal note, I miss giving these status updates in the future, but I am more excited at the prospect of being able to immerse myself in the matrix and deal with some of the more complex issues on our roadmap. Layer 1 future is still bright. And I think that's a key bit of business, it's a key bit of development is, okay, these people can run the PR operation, they know what they're doing. I'm going to build on the ecosystem. I'm going to make it, remember that quote he set out to do, I'm going to make it simple for decentralized applications to come and build on Lunar Classic. So with that all chucked in, with all of the potential that's coming, all the kind of new rejuvenated energy around that layer 1 task force, what have we got in terms of the price? Well, actually, we've got a nice moving chart. Yes, we're on the 15-minute right now, but actually you can see here we're starting a nice upward trend, trending above that 50-day EMA on the 15-minute, 2.42% up on the day. Now, if we come into the hour chart, it's a very similar story. Absolutely rocking past that 15.3 mark that we had. Did break, tested, and then bounced back off again. So this is going to be very interesting to see kind of how this pans out over the course of the next few hours. And then on the daily, again, we are under the 50-day EMA, but coming up to test this kind of 15.4 on the daily. And I think we could really start to see come back to test this 15.4. We could really start to see this move up as we get ever nearer to that 50-day EMA. Outperforming the market, outperforming Bitcoin. Lots of potential still coming with Lunar Classic. We continue to build, we continue to make the chain better, and I continue to bring you as much information as I can. So if you want to stay up to date with everything Lunar Classic, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Slightly longer video in this one, but I do think it's important to just really understand where the development team are and ultimately what is coming. So be sure to subscribe, share the video far and wide. Let's let people know exactly what's going on with it. Holding that 15.5. It's going to be an interesting couple of days. As ever, thank you so much for the support. I'll see you guys in the next video.